So, the goal of this podcast is going to be kind of twofold here. I just want to do fun articles, fun tech articles I find super fun. And let's also just have fun when we're doing it. For instance, Chat GPT wrote the entire show today. So we're gonna see. I didn't double check its work, so this could be all random. I did read the articles a little bit at least, so I know it's like semi-accurate, but all my talking points, discussion questions, all Chat GPT. So we're gonna find out how that really is gonna work out here. So for the first article, we have Coca-Cola is the first one to officially sign Chat GPT, uh, just like a sports team, just exactly like that. Not really. So OpenAI basically is leasing, selling some form of deal. The article I found didn't like mention this very specifically, but basically Coca-Cola will use OpenAI's ChatGPT and Dolly platforms to craft personalized ads, copy, images, messaging, you name it. Coca-Cola just fired their entire marketing department for an AI. Uh, I don't know if that's actually true, but essentially that's kind of what's happening here. They're going to be testing here for sure. So Coca-Cola is the first company to do this and publicly announce the use of this AI technology for marketing purposes, which to me is cool. And like, are we really there yet? Like, what if there really is a version of this Chat GPT out there that the public doesn't have access to, but is that good to replace people already? And that's what like Coca-Cola is getting access to. Like, will they actually fire their entire marketing department? I would guess not. I would guess you keep a few people to just double check that the AI is not going Microsoft on you and turning against the world. But that said, how many people do you really need to double check an AI's work? If you've played with Dolly, everyone's pretty much played with ChatGPT or knows about it. But Dolly is actually pretty cool itself in how it crafts images based on just input. You just put a little bit of stuff in, and it pops out a few images for you of whatever you typed in and whatever art style you wanted. So that on its own is a little worrisome, but we'll see what happens here. Who really knows? This thing is missing one of the rubber feet, which is why it's wobbling. Stupid Zoom audio recorder. But yeah, this will be interesting to see what happens. They're going to be able to, create conversational text, basically, images in seconds. I mean, their marketing department literally is gone in seconds. Other than, video would be the one thing that you might still need a team for. But in terms of like just regular still images and text, I think the AI is going to do just as good as a person for what they would need in that end. The only thing here is ChatGPT and Dolly have been criticized a little bit for infringing on copyrights and, hallucinating is the word that ChatGPT chose to use here as its bullet point word, is hallucination. Sorry, I can't. English. But it has been. Let me read this bullet point. Let me just put that out there. So, generative AI technology like ChatGPT can create conversational text, images, and other content in seconds. But it has also been criticized for hallucinating and potentially infringing on copyrights. So, I don't know. It's funny that, like, it seems when you put these articles in there, like ChatGPT clearly goes through them and can analyze them, but it doesn't seem to recognize itself in there. Because I don't think it would incriminate itself. I don't know what's going on there. It just seems a little interesting, I guess. And the last bullet point it really has here is as AIs become more widespread in marketing, how do you basically look for accountability or ethical AI in marketing, just in terms of infringing on stuff like that? Like, how do you know if an image was taken from somewhere on the internet or how much of it was? Just by looking at an image when it's been taken like that. It's just there's a lot going on there. So for the discussion questions, what ChatGPT has written for us today, and maybe ChatGPT will just become the co-host for this show because some of these are good and some of these maybe I should be writing one as well. And then you guys can guess down below. We'll do that for the next episode, actually. We'll do 3 discussion questions, and I'll write one. No. We'll just do 2. I'll write one. ChatGPT will write one. And you guys will guess. And I'll try to not make it hard in terms of like writing something similar. But so first discussion question we have here are what are some of the potential benefits and drawbacks of using generative AI technology in marketing and advertising? Well, I think like we were just discussing, one of the biggest ones is that brand new content, is that like used from a bunch of other things, which most of it seems to be kind of pulled together from other things and then cohesively stitched together, not completely made up on its own. But that said, the benefits are you're saving the bottom line on marketing because you can just have it create stuff for you. There's no people involved. You just pay a subscription over to OpenAI and Microsoft and say, hey, I want these images and texts and I want new marketing slogans, and bam, seconds later, you got those all showed up right there, just like that. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, another drawback, I guess, of using generative AI is what we're calling AI right now is more of what I would call machine learning. It's not actually generating anything on its own. It's using context from everywhere else to slam some things together and spit it out in what seems to be, like an AI. But I don't know if it itself is one fully. I mean, I'm not the brightest, but like, I would wonder. So next we have how can companies ensure that their use of this technology aligns with ethical considerations such as protecting copyrights and combating misinformation? That's rough. I mean, if they would have to allow ChatGPT to give you the sources that it's using to generate those things or give you that information, and maybe like a percentage of how much of it was used. And then based on that, if more than 25% is taken, then maybe you got to give the higher percentage people credit. I think in today's world, there's enough stuff out there that to a certain extent, you're going to have a percentage that's going to seem like it was copyrighted or taken. And you just got to figure out what the acceptable amount of that really is. Because there's enough text out there, there's enough images out there that people have created, that how much is really going to be shared? Probably a large percentage. So what's the okay percentage on that? I don't know what that would be. I guess I threw out the 25, 30%, maybe somewhere in there. But if all 30% is from one person, that's different, So that bar's just got to be found on what we're going to make okay. The last question here is just what other industries or areas can benefit from the use of this technology. And I think we all kind of know how ChatGPT could really be used for most of this stuff. It's pretty straightforward and easy to kind of see all the possibilities when you sit and think about it, and all of the issues. It makes something like universal basic income seem a little more necessary when you start thinking about what this technology will really change. And especially if we can keep the hardware to keep up with this, then, I mean, it's going to come quick. The transition will just, bam, here, got it. Speaking of transitions, cringe. YouTube is trying a new 1080p premium feature. So this is something YouTube's been experimenting with 4K at the moment anyways. And if you've noticed before, and especially in the mobile app, you don't get actual resolutions to choose from. You get higher data, medium and low basically. And that I guess those modes seem like they changed both resolution and bitrate. But all this is doing is they want to basically charge for a higher bitrate 1080p, which pretty much affects clarity and depth in picture. Currently, that's like 4K video. I think the truth really is most people are watching on phones or laptops or monitors, not big screens, and so 4K is not necessary. So a 1080p with a higher bit rate makes sense to an extent. The only interesting thing is with it being a premium feature on YouTube, that typically means they're going to charge for it. What I've seen from posts from other people is just is it really necessary to charge for it? Like, are people going to be willing to pay for that, or is regular 1080p going to be enough? Because I think if YouTube removes arguably the most valuable part of their platform, which is the quality for free, then you're going to start running into some issues as a platform. Not that there's any competitors, so, YouTube do you. So discussion questions by Chat GPT. How important is video quality to YouTube viewers? Like I said, for most people, I think majority on the platform, I'm going to look this up, but I think it's like 480p is what most people watch YouTube at. Watch YouTube at. It's 40% watch on mobile. Let me see if I can find resolution here. To most YouTubers, the best resolution is 1080p, blah, blah, blah. I would guess. So this seems to think it's 720p. Now, as somebody who is into cameras, into stuff like that, one of the things I have noticed on YouTube is that if you click on 4K versus 1080p, it's a bitrate difference that makes the difference, and it's not much. So if you were to lower it to 1080p, I don't know if it really matters. If you just keep the bitrate up, you probably have this pretty much the same looking image, and that's even using a 4K display. So video quality to most YouTube viewers, I don't think matters. I mean, there's certain categories where it's going to, where you have photographers and like people that focus on video and like video work. Those people are obviously going to need the higher quality and stuff like that to show off what they're doing and, details and things. But for most things on YouTube, whether it's, even gaming to an extent, once you're at 1080p, even 720p for a lot of videos, you don't really need more, especially for a mobile phone. I just don't think video quality is as important as people would think it would be. For our second question, we just have, what other ways could YouTube improve its content offerings? I would have to say that this is kind of a rough one. It's hard to say how or what they could do, just because it's such a big platform operating so many areas, and they do a lot really well. There's a reason everybody on every platform moves to YouTube after a while. It's the only place you can really make things happen. So, the only ways I could think they could is, again, here's an idea, and this is something I've actually wanted for a little while. I want to be able to set, based on the type of device I'm on, because they know what I'm watching on, if it's a phone, a laptop, a TV, whatever. I want to be able to set resolution per device. That'd be great. And then I guess the big thing, and everyone talks about, is just spam in the comments. I would love to go into YouTube comments here and there and like interact, but as of right now, I maybe read the top comment and then I'm like, all right, if I go any deeper, what am I really going to find here that's worth it? And yeah, the third thing here is just, should YouTube charge for higher quality video streaming or include it? I think that 1080p is probably something they need to include for free. 1080p higher bit rate maybe charge for. I think right now it's going to be hard to talk people into 4K. Like I said, there's only a few genres where it makes sense for them to even charge for that. So I don't know. It's hard to say for stuff like that. It doesn't make sense. Um, and then you kind of end up with the Twitter thing of like charging for Twitter Blue and all that, and it's hard to get people to pay for a service they're used to having for free. I think YouTube Premium does a great job of removing ads, and that's what makes it worth it. But other than that, I don't know. It just doesn't. It's hard to charge for something that people haven't paid for before. That said, YouTube's in the unique spot of being the only video platform, basically. And you have other ones out there, but none that are like YouTube. So that's to be seen. Speaking of to be seen, is Ford and LG are building the biggest EV battery cell factory in Europe. Uh, they just signed the memorandum of understanding to build it basically in Europe with 45 gigawatt hours in potential annual production capacity, which is massive. And Ford, as of right now, is planning to be a fully electric brand in Europe by 2035, which is stupid aggressive. And good luck to them. Good luck to anybody doing that. And 9 EVs in its lineup by 2024, which I'm guessing they got to be really close to. The joint venture is expected to break ground in Turkey later this year, and the production is supposed to begin in 2026. So that's fairly quick turnaround for a fab like that. And yeah, I mean, Ford's just trying to go full electric over there, which is interesting because this is a conversation I've had a lot recently, is with electric vehicles, especially in places where it's cold. You take let's say you have 300 miles of range. That's your estimated range. And now you add your normal driving and just all of that. You can probably shave off 20, 30 miles, plus a little more for you're obviously not going to zero. So now you have 250 miles just as a safe estimate. And now it's wintertime and it's cold out, and all of a sudden you have 125 miles. And I mean, for a lot of people, that's not going to get you anywhere. And then if you throw in, say you're a Ford guy who buys trucks because you want to haul things, all of a sudden you have 125 miles in the winter, plus you're going to haul something behind you. And all of a sudden you have maybe 50 miles. Maybe. I mean, just disappears so fast. And so hopefully Ford can make it there by 2035, but I do think for a lot of vehicle types and stuff like that, you're just going to have to wait. I just don't think it's going to happen that fast. For this, the discussion questions are kind of scuffed. There's not a lot of discussion questions. It's just kind of cool to see they're doing that, and we don't know much information on it right now. But this it's critical infrastructure for building and reaching this goal by 2035. The only discussion question that ChatGPT wrote here that I actually want to read is, how could the availability of these battery cells affect the affordability of electric cars and their adoption rate in Europe? And it obviously helps, but it's the materials themselves that are super expensive, and the fact that China owns most of the lithium mines, and all those materials are just, they're hard to get. You have to ship them everywhere. There's not many. Everybody's trying to switch to using these at once. I mean, every device you have pretty much has one of these lithium-ion batteries in it, and I mean, that's just that's a rough one. And that's going to be hard to do, like I've been saying. So next up, we have Mercedes, who is going to be making their own OS. And they're calling it MB.OS, which is just Mercedes-Benz OS. And it's going to operate pretty much every major system in their EVs, from infotainment to charging and even their autonomous driving. So this is, basically Tesla's system, but they're making their own. They're not buying one. They're not using anyone else's. They're going to do it all in-house. So This is partially because they want to just standardize it across their entire portfolios by the mid-decade, the entire portfolio of cars, that is, by the mid-decade, providing full upgradability and cost and improvements. Again, basically just going the Tesla route. I'm glad to see other car companies doing it this way though, because that's just the only way they're gonna catch up. So the operating system will feature navigation and maps from Google and be supported by NVIDIA's Orin, ORIN system on chip to enhance automated driving systems. Uh, they're announcing a multi-billion-dollar deal with Luminar to incorporate the company's Iris LiDAR technology into the next generation of vehicles by mid-decade to help safely navigate the automated driving systems that MB.OS will deliver. So, partnering to help make this shit happen. And yeah, I mean, hopefully this goes well for them. I'd love to see someone come and compete with Tesla with like a real self-driving system. Everyone else is like mapping roads and then taking those maps and allowing the car to drive based off that. It'd be nice to see a different version where hopefully what Mercedes is going to do with a system like this is the same way Tesla does it, where the car is mapping the roads, reporting things back, and then an algorithm and people are going through and training the car, so it can constantly learn and update. And as roads change, the car can learn. You don't have to go rescan roads every time. So again, hopefully that's what's really happening. I'm excited to see some competition show up in the next few years here, where there's actually like Tesla kind of has to worry right now. Well, other electric cars have these creature comforts that Teslas might not offer in terms of like battery and self-driving. Yeah, Tesla gets a lot of crap for it, but it's because they're leading the charge. And it'd be great to see some of that changes. Whoa, I said chains because that is actually what we're going to be talking about next. And discussion questions for the Mercedes ones, first off. So what benefits could this system offer over, other operating systems? Like I said, I think when a company does something in-house, the first couple generations are going to be rough, but after that, I think once you do it in-house, it's a lot easier to do things the way you need them done and kind of go and do it correctly for your customers. I think that's what this is going to help Mercedes with for sure. And yeah, I mean, that was one of the other questions Chat GPT had here was, how will this affect their relationship with customers? Like I said, first few generations are probably going to be rough, but after that, when they start getting these things set up in the right way to be, functioning with the customer as it should with the system, just, it's going to take a couple years to iron that stuff out. And then after that, they'll be in a much better spot. Yeah, and then just the last one here, implementing advanced automated driving features in a broader scale within its portfolio, and how might these be addressed? So what challenges will they face, doing this? I think they're going to come under similar flack to what Tesla's been going through, their self-driving and accidents and stuff like that. That's just how it's just how these systems are going to have to learn to an extent, is just by doing it. And as long as it's safer than a person and you're doing everything you can to allow it to be autonomous so it can learn and let people know if it's like kind of getting jank, then that's really all you can do. The last one here is, if you think of a typical electric bike and how those look and operate, you need a chain, you need a belt, you need a motor, you need a battery, you need pedals, you need all that. Now, what we have here is something that's just going to start going into production here called the free drive system. And what that does is it turns electric bikes into a series of hybrid vehicle by placing the electric and mechanical drivetrains in series, meaning the rider pedaling is converting that into electricity to power the motor and ultimately turn the wheels. So then you won't need a chain anymore. It'll just be by wire. No chain system, none of that extra BS. It's all in one, ready to go. So I think this is going to be sick because, for one, it's going to make these easier to make, and and it's just going to allow for like cargo bikes, like downtown deliveries and stuff like that, where people are biking everywhere, doing things that way. It's going to make an electric version of that way cheaper and way more efficient, which is just a big deal. So yeah, just kind of a cool thing. There's not much information really, uh, and there's not much to really talk about here. Then I think it's just a cool technology that could have other applications. Just think of, this is a technology that can be used in a sense of like basically it's regenerative braking, but you're pedaling it the whole time. That's kind of that's a scuffed way to say it, but just you can see what I mean by that. Like there's a lot of ways this could end up being used in the future, and just it's interesting. It's interesting. That's that's all. That's all for that one. I don't really have much else to say about that one. The last one, and this is just another interesting one. Not a ton of information, but it's interesting to me, and that is Intel made a 90% recyclable computer. So I tried to figure out what the other 10% was that was unrecyclable, and I couldn't really find much on that. So, but basically, the demo system they showed off was in partnership with Acer, and the demo system used an Intel 12th generation Alder Lake chipset and featured just a simple integrated design, reducing materials and helping cable reduction. And yeah, I mean, this is just an ultra, low carbon mode basically for this too. They made a software that also ran it in like an ultra low carbon operating mode and improved energy efficiency based on usage. And this PC is using a gallium nitride power supply that is up to 70% smaller than a standard ATX power supply and boasts an 80 plus titanium certification. Holy reading bad. And yeah, Intel is encouraging other manufacturers to use eco-friendly materials and clean energy in their manufacturing processes, and to work with other manufacturers with the same green philosophy. I think this gallium nitride stuff that they've been starting to use, Anker's been starting to use it in power supplies and stuff, or not power supplies, but power banks. And this stuff seems crazy, whatever it is. I mean, 70% smaller than a standard ATX power supply, and it's still 80 plus titanium certification. And that's wild. Even the battery size with GaN powered battery banks is astounding how what they're able to do with that. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that this GaN stuff is just, it's mind blowing. You can do a lot with it, make stuff way smaller, and it's just as efficient, if not more. And just a wild new innovation that's happened here in the last couple of years. So yeah, this just has what impact could eco-friendly PCs have on the technology industry as a whole and the environment, and a lot of PC stuff goes straight to waste and just garbaged and thrown out and sits in a landfill. I think the more we can reduce landfill, the better. Uh, no matter how small the impact, obviously to an extent, these companies need to be making money and can't be spending it all to fix what they're doing. But stuff like this is a major step forward in that direction, while also being, I mean, my guess would be because they're using less materials here and stuff too, that even if maybe slightly more expensive, it can't be that much though. So we'll see what happens there. Uh, yeah, I mean, what challenges could manufacturers face when implementing Intel's high energy, low carbon guidelines? And that's where I come back to again. They're gonna at the end of the day try to make money, and they're gonna just be kind of locked in at whatever they're doing. So hopefully, what ends up happening here is that technology gets better. If Intel's helping make this technology, that'll encourage other manufacturers to try and follow suit a little bit here and match what Intel's doing, and hopefully spend a little bit more. I mean, these companies make billions. They can definitely spend a little more than they currently do. And my recording has stopped, so I'm going to go hit restart quick. Well, I was going to hit restart, and the Canon R5 is overheated, so I guess we're not. let's just do. We only had a couple more discussion questions. Let's just do those and bang out of here. We actually literally only had one more, I guess. But how can consumers ensure that they're making environmentally conscious decisions when purchasing technology products? And what role do manufacturers play in educating them? This is one of the ways as you show off, making stuff like this. 90% recyclable computer is a great way to show off that you care a little bit at least. But in terms of like how can consumers ensure they're making environmentally conscious decisions? Unfortunately, in the tech world, there's limited manufacturers and limited suppliers. So you're kind of stuck with whatever they're doing. The only thing you can really do is complain online that you want more sustainability, and it seems like they're already making the rounds towards it, but never hurts to bark up the tree a little bit. And yeah, that's really all you can do. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of options. If there was more choices, then you could choose to buy products that way. But there's really just not that many choices. So you're kind of just stuck with whatever. Unfortunately. So that said, I hope you enjoyed this. I mean, this is the first one. I don't know how bad this is going to be. It actually literally says overheated shutting down now. So this is just for the audio people, because everyone else will be getting a black screen. So if you keep listening, that's on you. But I think this will be fun. I'm going to try and do this close to daily, and we'll just keep making ChatGPT write the discussion questions, like I said. I'll write some too here and there, but maybe I got to keep it like one shorter, do kind of 5 stories a day. I want to do more, but I think on my own I get a little bit stale after a little bit while. And so until I get better at talking on my own, let's just plan on not being completely on my own and letting this system do it on its own. And I'll just talk for a short amount of times. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Come back for maybe the next one at some point tomorrow. I'm going to try and do this for realsies at 34 minutes and 12 seconds. So that's not bad. Half hour, little morning listen on your way to work. I'll catch you guys in the next one.